So in the Irish context, we've had systematic forms of disinvestment in public services in particular, and the entire infrastructure essentially of public services, particularly those that women are dependent upon, have been eroded. And in that context, our study really confirmed in an empirical way that it was extremely important to try and to address those deficits. And we're really talking about women in low pay and the kinds of services that they rely upon, but also we're talking about an erosion of services, particularly for minority women, women from the Indigenous travelling community in Ireland, who've had budgets cut, particularly around back to education measures and other forms of incentives and social protection that create a cushion in the context of the labour market for such disadvantaged women. So in the Irish context, it's quite interesting. We don't have an explicitly hard right political party, and we have forms of populism which tend to circulate in cultural terms. We have a political culture that is very much directed by forms of clientelism, and in many ways the forms of right-wing activism can be quite implicit and difficult to target for feminist actors. What we find generally is a continuity in forms of social conservatism around gender relations. And sometimes this is then connected in very unhelpful ways in terms of feminist justice claims to forms of right-wing populism. But populism that tends to settle in the centre-right parties more than a hard-right kind of xenophobic backlash in that context. Well, we, in the study that we conducted on the Irish case, and actually looking comparatively across Europe at other efforts by feminist organisations to deal with permanent austerity, we come to the conclusion really that there is a general lack of capacity in feminist political economic analysis. And we find this is really a function in some ways of the erosion of the gender equality infrastructure. So the defunding or the underfunding of think tanks and state feminist organisations. So this has weakened their capacity, particularly to develop the technical forms of expertise in order to address in kind of evidence-based ways how the political economy itself has had a negative implication for gender equality in that sense. Well, again, looking at the Irish country case, for us, really, we think there are some very interesting possibilities around generating alliances, particularly between trade unions, leftist trade unions, and feminist organisations. And this is a problem. We really have a kind of an absence of feminist critical actors within trade unions, and when they are there, they don't seem to be very well supported. Often we find that feminist organisations are raising distributional issues, but they are in many ways marginalised in debates because it's quite difficult to construct solidarity across leftist political formations in the Irish context. So really a possibility would be, whether it's in the context of maybe pension policy or low pay or precarious work, to think about constructing alliances with trade unions, particularly those representing feminised occupations. I think that would be a really fruitful way forward. So in the Irish context, we've always been quite reliant on international forum, particularly the EU and the UN, to try and raise issues, particularly around reproductive rights and other issues to do with institutional abuse in the Irish context of women and children. So we're quite used to thinking about the international context as an important lever for change on gender equality issues. We do see that even perhaps maybe, International Confederation of Trade Unions, the ETUC, there could be probably interesting possibilities there to raise issues, perhaps the European Parliament also in the Fem Committee, and to think about not just talking to each other, because Irish feminists already talk to other European feminists, but it's moving outside of that circle and thinking about other left political formations operating across Europe. There could be a space for then, some kind of generative form of alliance, particularly to raise issues, whether it is about, particularly for the most disadvantaged women, distributional issues, not just issues related to legality or using other fora like the UN, but actually more fundamental issues around social protection and around social investment, particularly in terms of labour market policy and social welfare.